I'm still enjoying that little drum roll. Hey everybody, thank you for waiting. Welcome to our national and global actual news recap. Tonight is Wednesday, November 5th, a day after the election. We did cover the election yesterday extensively, 4 hours on the dot. We watched all the speeches. Of course, we will cover the national global news first, but then we did cover also the election itself and then the acceptance speeches or those who were defeated, acknowledging the results as well. So if you are looking for election content, please go ahead and check out yesterday's live stream. We did cover all the elections. New York City has a new mayor. Zoran Mamdani has won, and he's the new mayor, or will be the new mayor, inaugurated on January 1st. We also did cover the newly elected governors and their elections and their speeches in New Jersey and also in Virginia. We also covered the Pennsylvania election that selected the justices or voted to keep the justices and keep the democratic system. And also, of course, the Proposition 50 in California. So again, if you missed out on that content and perhaps you're not in the US and you're wondering, what are they even talking about? Go ahead and check it out there. So in the first about 40 minutes, you get, the idea of where it's going and what it is. All right. So today we are covering everything but the election. So we're moving on. Of course, there is also extensive analysis that I published yesterday. It's also in your yesterday's newsletter as to what are the takeaways, what are we looking forward to 2026, and most importantly, also 2028, right? But of course, the precursor is 2026. And hi, everybody. Hi, Ignacio. Hello. Love the drum roll. Yeah, me too, right? It kind of makes my day. I mean, as sad as it sounds, the drum roll makes my day. Congratulations on a step back towards sanity, US. Linda, thank you, Linda. Let's hope this is what it is. Hi, Sean. Fingers crossed. Michael, keep good. Yeah, you're talking about the blue wave rolling. And Mike, hi, everyone. Lots to discuss tonight. Yes, popcorn yellow stripped smile. Absolutely. Oh, I guess you put the thing and then it kind of like writes down. Okay, writes out the name of the emoji. Very interesting. It's the first time I'm seeing that. So what are we covering today is all this. Looks like a doozy. It is a doozy. So Trump's post-election fury, Senate pushback, Supreme Court showdown, and Putin's nuclear missile medals. He's giving out medals. And so we're going to, dive into that. Is it real? Is it really real? What is he giving out the medals for? And I have all the insights. And I also have the tea on the possible candidates for 2028. And also, the beef within the GOP. So we're going to review that as well. Of course, national news and global news as well. So moving on. Trump began his day. Actually, he ended his night yesterday by scheduling a very early for him 8:30 a.m. breakfast with the GOP leadership at the White House. And don't worry, I do have one Trump clip that I'm about to show you, and I promise you it's the only one. But he summoned them to promise them, this I know from those people who were there, off the record, that he promised them to make their lives a living hell. Promising that I will be calling you at 3 a.m. I will be demanding you to do more. I will be pushing you to eliminate filibuster and all that kind of stuff. What was on camera, and it gives you a bit of a perspective on where he was going there. He was essentially using Xi Jinping's delegation, the Chinese Communist Party delegation, as sort of an example of what he wishes for. So take a look at this clip, and then we're going to discuss the details. Take a look.
I put a 100% tariff on China. As soon as I heard it, within 20 minutes, I put a 100% tariff on China. When President Xi, who's really a friend of mine, as much as he can be a friend. He's a tough man. He's a tough man. Smart man, actually. Very smart. The press doesn't like it when I call him very smart. You know, they think I'm not supposed to call him smart. But he leads 1.4 billion people without question. In fact, during the meeting we were there, a couple of you were there, and some of you saw it. So he's here, and he's got about 6 people on each side, and every one of those people was standing like this. They were at attention. And I made a comment to one of them, and I got no response. I said, "Are you going to answer me?" I got no response. And President Xi didn't let him have any. So if there's any question, I said, I want my cabinet to behave like that. That's the way. I'm demanding that I want them sitting up like that, Tim, just nice and straight. I never saw posture like that. I've never seen men so scared in their lives. They have the equivalent of a vice president. He was. I said, "Are you going to answer my question?" And he's like, he doesn't move. I said, "What's wrong with this guy?" "I will answer all questions." Why don't you behave like that? JD doesn't behave like that. JD buds into conversations. I want to have that for at least a couple of days, okay, JD? We'll keep you long term, but a couple of days of that would be very, very nice.
Ha he he ha ha, authoritarianism. And all of this is, of course, hidden after or behind this type of a joke. But as you know, when Trump jokes, he kind of gives out the information for free about what's to come. And one of those examples was, of course, his long speech that I was listening to. I was devoted to it, unfortunately. So Trump flew to Miami to speak at this business event that I mentioned several times month prior, right? Because it was so heavily advertised. Somehow I was their target demographic. So everywhere I would go, or anywhere I would go, I would see those advertisements for this business event. And so, you know, there it was Infantino, FIFA's Infantino. There was Serena Williams, who last minute replaced somehow Will Smith. There was Milei, Argentina's Milei. There was the the new recipient of Nobel Peace Prize, Machado, who is reciting MAGA rhetoric. There was Leo Messi, the soccer player star, Rafael Nadal, tennis. So a weird constellation of people, but certainly was a MAGA event because Tony Robbins was speaking before Trump and introducing Trump. And so then Trump went on this long-winded speech, which was about 2 hours long. I will not cite any, I will have quotes here for you, but I'm not going to show you any videos, nor I will show you his dancing. And of course, naturally, it ended with YMCA dancing. So during the remarks, Trump rallied against scammy Newsom. And why is he talking about Governor Newsom? Because, yes, Proposition 50 yesterday passed with, all this bright and bushy-tailed, so to speak. And it was a great success, specifically a great success for Governor Newsom. Because now, of course, California can engage with redistricting. Same thing that Texas is doing. It's not California's idea. They're responding, rightfully so. And then they can also get a bit more authority here. So, and Trump administration, through the GOP, right, those leaders that were summoned to this breakfast this morning, it ended up with them suing California to say that the Proposition 50 and the redistricting is illegal and is anti-constitutional or whatever. We certainly know that all of that is BS because, well, California, as I mentioned, is reacting to what GOP has started. So the ongoing government shutdown was also part of Trump's speech and what he called left extremism. He also declared the Affordable Care Act, the ACA, right? The exact point why the Democrats would not be conceding to GOP's demands as to lifting the shutdown and agreeing on this budget, right? Because the ACA payments would be missing and people's copays will go up by 30% and people won't afford to have insurance, right? People can't afford to eat, right? Families who would receive $350 a week Trump first promised them half of it, which is 175, and then yesterday said there will be nothing, right? So he declared in this speech that the Affordable Care Act is the greatest scam. And this earned a round of applause, like standing ovation type of applause. So I let you imagine what type of audience was in this arena. And mind you, if you have never been to former American Airlines arena, now it's in this like Kaseya Center or whatever in Miami, downtown Miami in Brickell, it's huge. It has 40,000 seats in it. So Trump said, we're leading China and all in AI by far, and this was my idea. I have no comment. He also said that Biden doesn't even know who Biden is. Okay. He accused congressional Democrats of having installed a communist as the leader of largest city in nation, certainly referring to New York City, drawing loud boos in support. Once he mentioned Mamdani, it was, all the supportive boos, right? And then said that his opponents were turning America into Venezuela and Cuba. I want to pause right here because the breaking news, and hence why I'm late, because I was calling sources to see what is actually happening. Trump has, at this point, several variations on how he wants to oust Maduro. His goal that Trump decided on, he needs regime change in Venezuela. Maduro, as I mentioned, has a 10-year unconditional agreement with Putin himself. Putin is the one provoking Trump to go against Venezuela. So imagine, if not tonight, but tomorrow, Putin starts speaking and intervening between Maduro and Trump and offering Trump some concessions, maybe a meeting, maybe talks about potential ceasefire. Something will come from Russia. This is what would be logical. Again, none of this world, all of this is bullshit, not logical, but this would be a logical step just because of the facts. Okay, I'm just connecting the dots. And so at this point, and he has several versions of how he wants to attack Venezuela. So it could be air, it could be water, it could be, whatever. Main goal is to oust Maduro. So this is what he is dealing right now with. Now, Trump accused congressional Democrats of having installed this communist, right? So this is a precursor to start attacking New York. He said, well, maybe we give New York something, or maybe nothing, or maybe whatever. Now, mind you, Mamdani is going to be inaugurated on January 1st. So we still have all-you-can-buy Mayor Adams, who is, calls himself independent, but is very MAGA. So it really dreams to become part of Trump administration. So now putting troops inside New York, withholding funds, how are you going to explain it, right? We're still in November. So also Trump bragged about inventing his no tax on tips policy at the rally in Nevada. He literally said, look, I was at the rally in Nevada and, people were not jubilant and I just made up no tax on tips. I made it up and then we won Nevada. So I just literally made it up. And people were, of course, standing ovation, fantastic. The event, of course, ended with Trump dancing. And he also was presented a key for presidential library. This was the whole point of him traveling to Miami, because what Miami did in the Doral, in the specific county in Miami, they do have a public school. It's a school / university, sort of like a college type of thing. And essentially, this is people own the land, right? It's the government-owned land and building and everything. And so the local government decided not to put this up to vote because, this has been covered by so many journalists that are local, and I'm thinking maybe to bring them up and have a short interview live so we kind of learn the details here. But essentially, the local mayor took the land and gifted it to Trump personally. Mind you, this is not Trump nonprofit, right? When he is off duty, he's no longer president, everybody has to build a library. And so his nonprofit would be owning land, purchasing from somewhere, whatever. This is a personal gift. And while accepting this little key, of course, metaphorically a key to his presidential library, Trump joked. And the joke is, I'll build out the White House and then I will move it to Doral in about 3.5 years. I mean, yes, we saw the photos. They put the sign, Oval Office, on the wall. Literally, they printed out 3 papers, used Canva to put like fancy. It's actually called, I think it's like Royal, transcript or whatever, Royal font. In gold, they wrote the Oval Office, and they put the 3 papers, literally A5, on the wall of the White House. So essentially, whatever he's building there, essentially, he wants to take it with. Now, there's also a G7 in South Africa right now, which is a very important event. Why is it important? Because South Africa, we pulled the money out of it, right? If you may recall, maybe you're sticking here with me for more than a year, last summer, when President Biden traveled to Brazil and he traveled to that part of the world. He also announced that U.S. will be investing in Latin America and also South Africa. We will be building ports. We will be trading with those folks. We're also going to start, the cultural exchange, allowing them to, learn here and come back and build out companies and all that kind of stuff. When Trump came into office, he vetoed all of it. So, but this did not, all those initiatives, all those ports, right? There was a $2 billion port in Brazil alone. All those ports were not let, to crumble. China stepped in and China invested instead of us. And certainly that's why when I mentioned yesterday that if you do calculate China's exports, they completely replaced whatever they lost with the US through South Africa and Latin America. So this is all, they invested in their ports, but they essentially made sure that their income is not dependent on the US, at least not as much as it was before. So, and Trump started joking. He is not going to South Africa for G20 because he is making up this story that the white people are being harassed there and they have to be imported here. Those Afrikaans, the farmers who would be coming here, all of them are right-wing farmers. And so now they have this program where you just can fly into US and get your green card on the dot, and you're even greeted by our US CIS, US whatever immigration authorities. They're greeting them and all that kind of stuff. I posted videos about that a couple of months ago. This is not the same thing with Nigeria. I raised this question yesterday, right here on the live stream, because, you have white farmers coming in, but for Nigeria, where you allegedly are protecting Christians, you don't have such immigration program. So I'll let you imagine why. And so now he's joking about G20, and he says, look, South Africa doesn't even have to be in G20, but they're hosting it this year. But I'm certainly not going because it's such a shit show. And South Africa that is hosting it now, Putin is not flying there because Putin is not flying, period. This moth is scared for his life shitlessly, and rightfully so. But he's sending his representative, Oreshkin. And I talked about it yesterday. So Russia will be closing deals there. China will be closing deals there. We are not there, but what we want is ultra-right people to come from South Africa to us. That's essentially where we're at. And again, this G20 comment is being very much discussed internationally because it is also quite embarrassing and hurtful to South Africa. Now, and don't forget South Africa and their GDP. They're rightfully so in G20. He also took aim at climate science at this point. He said, remember the old scam, global warming? They'd say it's getting warm, but then it gets cold in winter, so it's a lie. So we're going to drill, baby, drill like crazy. Again, standing ovation, applause. And ultimately, he introduced Kushner, his son-in-law, with his daughter, so Trump's grandchild, and he called or referred to Kushner as the father of Abraham Accords. Then he said Witkoff was there, and by the way, Witkoff was also speaking at this event, making cash, And he said, look, I ended 8 wars. And then he made up that he ended the war between Kosovo and Serbia, which ended in the 90s. Like, what are we even talking about? He said, well, I ended the war in Gaza, right? And so some people say that it's only temporarily, but I think it's not temporarily, right? And then he said, Steve, referring to Witkoff, Jared, referring to Kushner, tell me that it is forever, right? Because otherwise I would have to cross it out and say I solved only 7 wars, and that would be a bummer. This is dedicated to all these people who are pro-Palestine and voted for Trump because they believe that he will have their interest in his mind. So this is on that. Let me check some comments. Somebody has questions. It's funny. It's a pill. Yeah, the video. I knew there was a reason never liked Tony Robbins. Yeah, bravo, South Africa. Yeah. So now another big story today was Supreme Court, and I don't want to speculate because we saw so many things from New York Times and other outlets like, oh, Supreme Court is tending to be judgmental. I don't want to curse, but what the hell do you expect them to be? I mean, they're literally Supreme Court. The whole talk is about the tariffs, and the tariffs is a precursor to give Trump more rights. So, Supreme Court heard arguments today in major case that could decide whether Trump's sweeping Liberation Day, remember when he dragged out this whole printout with tariffs on penguins and others. So the question is if those are legal, right? Because yes, he's citing national security, but how are those penguins related to our national security? And only through national security, he's able to impose those tariffs on countries. And so he's using this excuse as a precursor, right? But Congress is unplugged, literally, but essentially they have to vote on those tariffs. So small businesses are challenging the measures, saying that they have driven costs and uncertainty to intolerable levels. Rightfully so. The ruling will determine the future of Trump's tariffs on China, Mexico, and Canada, key pillars of his economic agenda. And I would say it also will determine those tariffs on Russia as well. Is Congress bent over? Yes. Will they do what Trump wants? Yes. But this will make it even easier, so he doesn't even have to ask them. So let's wait for the ruling. Let's hear, right? Today, the questioning was pretty tough and on point. We saw that the far-right justices kind of moved more to liberal side, asking the questions and being very skeptical of this idea, because this is not about Trump. This is about the future presidents as well. So we will see. Once we have a decision, we'll talk about it. Then Russia today produced an event. It's very ironic. It almost feels like you are in some Twilight Zone. Why? Because in Moscow, they called it Dialogue on Fakes 3.0. It's a forum. It was held and led, ironically, by Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova, who drinks a lot. And the slogan was, "We are against the fakes." And it sounded, of course, as credible as Russia is pro-peace. I do have a video of her speaking. It's in Russian, but it has subtitles in English. So take a look. It's like a, I don't know, it's a world upside down type of story. Yeah, what?
Мы видим настоящую, как я уже сказала, эпидемию, пандемию фейков и дезинформации, которая захлестнула весь мир. Это рукотворное явление, это намеренное явление, я имею в виду фейки и мир постправды. И главным генератором фейков, изобретателем системы распространения дезинформации является, конечно, западный мир.
So she says literally that the source of disinformation is the Western world. So meanwhile, Kremlin invited 150 Western journalists on a press tour to Ukraine, right, the front lines in Kupiansk, Pokrovsk, and Mirnograd, to show Ukrainian troops being surrounded. But the international press didn't fall for it. Not a single reporter signed up. Most saw it as an attempt to stage scenes blaming Ukrainian forces for Russian actions. And speaking of Ukraine and speaking of yesterday's election, we saw this wonderful ladies. By the way, they did share an apartment in Washington, D.C. Together. So, of course, the talk is about New Jersey's Mikey Sherrill, who, by the way, is a supporter, well, of Ukraine with less. Here we go. Supporter of Ukraine. She met with President Zelensky earlier and posted several pictures in support. And then newly elected governor of Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, she's also has met with Zelensky, also is a supporter and visited here. This is a wall of heroes where you see pictures and names of all the soldiers, Ukrainian and other soldiers who have passed. Speaking of those soldiers, something that I want to draw your attention to, these are the fallen volunteer soldiers by country who are fighting on behalf of Ukraine. So for Ukraine, and again, keyword volunteer soldiers, because some when I posted it on Blue Sky, some were asking those people who were taking hostage or whatever, the Russians specifically. No, those are volunteers as of October 27th, 2025. So as you see here, Cambodia, 348 people passed fighting for Ukraine's sovereignty. United States, 100. Georgia, 91. Belarus, 53. Russia, 49. United Kingdom, 43. Azerbaijan, 37. Brazil, 33. France, 30. Poland, 21. Germany, 17. Canada, 17. Finland, 14. Spain, 14. Sweden, 13. And Italy as well. Peru, 11. Australia, 10. Israel and Hungary, 8 soldiers from each country. And Czech Republic, 8. And you see here, so when Trump says, well, this war is not ours, it doesn't touch us, our guys are not dying. No, your guys are dying, specifically 100 guys, girls, whoever is giving the ultimate sacrifice, defending Ukrainian sovereignty. So somebody who also traveled to Ukraine, not for the first time, but now also repeatedly, Angelina Jolie, she is the UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, and she traveled to Lviv. When the war began, she traveled in April 2022. It was a full-scale invasion, very first month of it, and she visited a humanitarian mission in Lviv, and when she met those who evacuated and displaced children. And so now she returned back, and there she got she received a Kherson commemorative coin from the head of Kherson City Military Administration. So this is in Ukrainian, but I just want to show you a video for the visual of it. Take a look.
А тут зображена стела нашої Херсонівки, яка зустрічає вас на місці. Це унікальна монета в лімітованому тиражу, і ми дуже хотіли, щоб вона була у вас. Якщо можна.
I'll treasure it. I really will.
So, they're good people. Now, something that I wanted to share. So we saw Marjorie Taylor Greene going on The View. She's also posting, criticizing specifically Speaker Mike Johnson. She's saying GOP doesn't have a plan on anything and everything. And so I want to show you a clip by AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who spoke about that, bringing up a reason why MTG is on this mission. Take a look.
Here's some tea for you. MTG, people are like, oh my God, she's saying all of these things. Like, what's gotten into her lately? Oh, like she's bucking against Trump. She's bucking against the administration. Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to run for Senate in Georgia. She wanted to run for Senate earlier this year in the state of Georgia. She wanted to be the Republican nominee for Senate. So she was gearing up for that statewide race, and Trump told her no. Trump said no. And the White House and Trump land shut down Marjorie Taylor Greene's personal ambitions to run for Senate. And she has been on a revenge tour ever since.
And so, yes, revenge tour. But now we're hearing from sources that Marjorie Taylor Greene is telling people she wants to run for president in 2028. Her conversations have centered around her belief that she's real MAGA and that the others have strayed, adding that she believes she has the national donor network to win the primary. And in the, continuing the segment of weird and hella crazy, here's, what Lady Lindsay thinks about the party and what he believes that Trump is doing really, really well currently. Take a look.
He recognized Jerusalem as capital of Israel. Why? Because if you got a problem with that, take it up with God. He's the guy that did it, not Trump. So I just want to say, I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes. Trump is my favorite president. We've run out of bombs. We didn't run out of bombs in World War II. So, as a coalition of Republicans, some Baptist, some Jewish, we organize ourselves around principles that we love and we cherish. We love individual freedom. We love entrepreneurship. We love capitalism. We love Israel.
He kills all the right people. We ran out of bombs. We didn't run out of bombs in the World War II. Quick national news, weight loss drug deal. As I mentioned yesterday, now it's official. Trump is expected to announce a deal with Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, cutting the price of weight loss drugs to $150 a month per CBS. Also, 24 House Democrats asked Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian whether the airline plans to use AI to set ticket prices, because they have been tipped that this will be the fact. Unfortunately, yesterday, a devastating accident happened in Louisville, Kentucky. UPS cargo plane crashed after takeoff, killing at least 7, including all 3 crew members, and 11 were hurt. I did report on that yesterday during the live stream. And so what was the latest? That right after liftoff, the plane literally lost its engine. And so this was the latest breaking news in about 30 minutes ago. Now, as to Apple preparing to launch, they're preparing to launch a sub $1,000 laptop for the first time. On Stellantis, they recalled 320,000 hybrid Jeeps over a battery fire risk. I think all Canadian friends will be a bit celebrating. On IBM, and now they announced mass layoffs as it shifts towards software. And Starbucks has sold 60% of its China business to Boyu Capital for $4 billion. As to FDA controversy, yes, a lot of people were poisoned earlier last week, but now FDA approved a costly rare disease drug. I don't want to put names or causes because all of this bullshit, so I don't want you to even research it. So they approved a costly rare disease drug in September, despite internal reviewers finding it no more effective than placebo. This is not over-the-counter drug, so doctors will not be prescribing it. And as to fraud indictment, Bradley Hapner, former GWG Holdings chair, was indicted on securities and wire fraud charges. Some quick global news. The U.S. military killed another 2 men aboard of suspected drug vessel in Eastern Pacific, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said. Also, the Trump administration is ending temporary protected status for South Sudanese nationals, exactly at the time when they need it most. And all of this is after more than a decade. So again, when Trump came in and he, I think, canceled out first 250,000 people who wouldn't be able to come here, and they were elsewhere waiting on their cases to be processed, and then they were informed they will not be moving to the United States. Same also happened to those from Afghanistan who were also held someplace else waiting on their documents. So these are hundreds of thousands of people affected. As to Gaza peace plan, so United States will circulate a draft resolution of Trump's Gaza peace plan to UN Security Council. And all of this is joined by Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and UAE in support. Now, what I'm hearing is that they will be circulating this only among 10 members of Security Council. So certainly Russia and 9 others, with China as well, but not all Security Council members. Yeah. Now, Secretary of General Mark Rutte of NATO, he visited Romania today, and he met with their president, Dan, in Bucharest. Obviously, Romania is very much in the news right now because Trump is withdrawing forces from Romania. Speaking of forces, we also have second largest representation in Europe, which are in Germany. And so since we have the government shutdown and Trump decided not to pay those forces, Germans stepped in and paid for this, right? For our forces. They paid their salary last month. And so now United States issued a whole thing. I want to read it out because I do have it here. This is reported by Deutsche Welle News, so German national news channel. So food banks are among the resources listed for soldiers and their families on a web page for U.S. Army base in Germany, as a government shutdown has ripple effects on troops overseas. The U.S. is entering its longest ever blah, 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 blah. They won't be getting their November 15th paycheck if it all continues. This is confirmed by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. On its website, the U.S. Army Garrison Bavaria published a guide with tips on how soldiers in Germany can cope during the shutdown. It listed links to emergency benefits and loan options from the German government. The webpage also contained a running list of German support organizations for your kit bags. That included charities like Food Sharing e.V., and Essen für alle, this Food for All, as well as the app Too Good to Go. Again, German food banks. These links and recommendations were swiftly removed from U.S. Army Garrison Bavaria main webpage after it got traction in German media, and they started questioning, like, what the hell? But they still remain in the PDF that was sent out to all those families. Also, the U.S. Army Garrison Bavaria is the Army's largest group outside the U.S., with a total of roughly 36,000 U.S. troops across 4 facilities in Germany. In October, the German government said it would temporarily cover salaries for around 11,000 local employees at U.S. military bases as a goodwill gesture, expecting reimbursement once the shutdown ends. There is a saying, if you speak German, it says, "Verlass dich nicht, sonst wirst du verlassen." If you translate it, it's don't rely, otherwise you will be left alone. I have this as an offer to our German friends. How embarrassing. How disgusting. And we're talking about, defend, put America first. You have 36,000, your employees, hungry, and families. It's around 100,000 people if you think about it. A family would have 2-3 people, right? Maybe a wife and a kid, or husband and a kid. Maybe alone, 2 kids, whatever, right? Mix it. Freaking embarrassing. Just disgusting at this point. Okay. Funny. Who is funny is Putin and his ideas. He gave, as I mentioned in the beginning here, he awarded medals to developers of Russia's nuclear-powered Burevestnik cruise missile and Poseidon torpedo, both unveiled in 2018. But here's the reality. Analysts say Moscow is recycling old weapons for psychological impact, signaling its focus on the U.S. and as primary adversary. The Center for Strategic and International Studies noted that the message was aimed at deterring U.S. support for Ukraine and responded to Trump's proposed Golden Dome missile defense system. So they're just using old shit, putting it together, presenting it, and awarding a medal to somebody who pushed this shit forward for presentation. Just, to paint the picture. But Trump today at this, again, Miami thing, was talking about how he will speak to Xi and Putin about demilitarization, and he was going to talk about denuclearization. exactly what Putin wants actually from NATO. So, yeah, well, hell no. Now, Central Asia leaders, you know where they're going? I'll let you guess. Comment. This will be fun. So there's a thing called CP5+1. Nobody talks about it, but we will. It includes Kazakhstan, one, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. All of this very Russia related directly. So this is the C5. Who do you think is +1? Because that gives you an idea of where they're going to be headed. German People Charities feeding U.S. troops, right? Noted womanizer Lady G. So where do you think they're headed? To the White House. To the White House, to the wall. So this stunts, right? The Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, all the pro-Putin folks are headed to the White House tomorrow, meeting Trump, making deals. And this is a way to bypass sanctions for Russia because you know who is the biggest buyer as of late of Russian oil? What do you think? Kazakhstan, who does not need any Russian oil, but they are the intermediary, they're middleman for Putin to sell oil further. Same as Turkey, by the way. So all of this will be headed to the White House to make the deals for Putin and be the middleman who gets something on hand. All right, so China has a space delay. I mean, let's not, even joke about it. So 3 Chinese astronauts extended their 6-month mission in space after possible debris struck their Shenzhou 20 return ship. So their return is delayed pending safety checks. The incident comes amid intensifying competition in space. Remember that NASA now will be since yesterday Trump appointed Musk's best guy, Isaac Jefferson something. Jeffrey Isaacson. Sorry, reverse. So it's pretty much Musk was lobbying for him to headline NASA. Trump did not agree because this guy was also donating to Democratic campaigns. Now, half a year later, Trump obeyed. And so, yes, he will be headlining NASA again, reinstalling the SpaceX position as the leader in this entire budget constellation, leader in terms of who's receiving the most budget. Also, SpaceX has been awarded $2 billion to work on all this. And so U.S. is targeting 2027 lunar return, and China plans a moon landing by 2030. So Canada has a new budget plan. Prime Minister Carney announced $100 billion investment to offset U.S. tariffs and strengthen defense and infrastructure. In short, the plan also doubles Canada's deficit, but includes $36 billion in spending cuts. And so I will be diving more into that and presenting a separate article on that. So please go ahead and read because it's a pretty long readout that I got from Prime Minister's office. In other news, and perhaps you saw videos and it's horrific, truly, at least 85 people were killed and nearly 500,000 displaced by Typhoon Kalmegi. It's in Cebu province in Philippines, and people are still recovering from September earthquake. And it was among the hardest hit places by this. And now the storm is moving toward Vietnam and Thailand. So now, as to warming, right? Trump does not recognize global warming or anything alike, but UN does. And so UN Environment Program reported that the world is on track for up to 2.5 degrees Celsius of warming if climate pledges are met. But it would be 2.8 degrees Celsius under current policies. And the U.S. withdrawal from Paris Agreement alone is bringing 0.1% Celsius warming. So the drill baby drill situation, the melting ice. Also, Trump appointed Musk's best buddy with whom he created PayPal before he sold it to Thiel as ambassador to Greenland, with one task only to accomplish, as to annexing Greenland. So this was new today, and it's happening. Greenland is again protected. Well, it's ambassador to Denmark. My apologies, to Denmark. And Denmark obviously is protecting Greenland. Greenland obviously is not going to obey, neither will Denmark, but I don't think that his efforts will be met anywhere halfway or even less. I think he will be facing such opposition that none of this will come through unless US will want to do it, aggressive way, like invading or, doing something like a false flag operation or something alike. So now, meanwhile, EU finally agreed on this climate deal. They spent months not agreeing on any target. Now, the countries agreed on new 2035 emissions target, aiming 66 to 72% reduction from 1990 levels. However, the compromise allows buying foreign carbon credits, weakening the overall goal. As to France and Iran, they had a prisoner swap today. Cécile Kohler and Jacques Paris were returned. Those are French nationals. And France conditionally released Iranian student Mahdi Esfandiari. Macron and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi expressed hope for renewed diplomacy. And there is a heavy fighting in Pokrovsk region in Ukraine. Again, yes, Putin claims that Ukrainians are being surrounded. No, they're not. But still, the heavy fighting is there. By the way, Zelensky visited the front lines yesterday. So both Russia and Ukraine reported intense battles near Pokrovsk, a key logistics hub. Ukraine denied Moscow's claim that its forces were trapped, citing successful operations with US-made Black Hawk helicopters. And finally, on EU enlargement, yesterday I reported on this new, scores that EU gave all the members or potential members of EU, like Georgia was met with F score, because again, it's led by pro-Russian ultra-right party. Ukraine was given a B, some are B plus, B minus, but ultimately, EU foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas said that accession by 2030 is a realistic goal, specifically for, she spoke about Ukraine and Montenegro. And then she also issued a warning of democratic backsliding in Serbia and Georgia. And as I mentioned, both Serbia and Georgia are working with Putin way too close. So, do I have any other videos to show you that I forgot to show you? No, I think we got through everything. So this is short and on point. And so again, thank you so much for being here. Some housekeeping. Tomorrow I will not be live. Tomorrow morning I'm reporting live, and I will be tweeting about it, writing an article, recording content. Also, I will be at a meeting early morning tomorrow with the ambassador from South Korea to United States and United States ambassador to South Korea. It's an off-the-record meeting. They also will be analyzing what happened at APEC, what has been agreed upon, what is not being agreed upon. It's very interesting to have both sides in the room where I'm able to ask questions. Also, possibly the prime minister or his office, South Korean side, would be present as well. So it's very interesting to kind of corner both sides and to see like what actually did you agree upon. Then tomorrow I'm recording an interview with the organizer of the 10th ceremony. It's an anniversary for Aurora Foundation. They're a humanitarian organization, very upscale, and has a lot of donors and democratic leaders that are supporting it. And so tomorrow we'll be interviewing the founder and the CEO of this foundation, and then attending their ceremony as a guest on Ellis Island in New York. So prepare for a lot of wonderful, beautiful footage from Ellis Island and Statue of Liberty and ferry and all that kind of stuff. So all this content, and I'm at a very interesting table with very prominent, very well-known people. So we will discuss that on Friday when we're meeting here again off the record, for our Honest Plus folks, where we talk off the record and freely. So if you consider joining, it's a join button underneath. So tomorrow we're not meeting for live stream, but I will make sure to produce the newsletter. And on Friday, we're meeting to discuss all this and have a deep dive on what's next for MAGA, because we got some new reports yesterday, and on the Arctic. We're going to do a deep dive on the Arctic. What is defending whom, how, now, what is possible, what is not, because I know specifically our also Canadian friends had questions about it. So we're going to dive deep into that, and I'll share something off the record what happens tomorrow, and there will be footage and of course coverage. So this is a busy day tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to it, to bring some new content for you. Michael, thank you, Michael, for being subscriber and Honest Plus member. Thank you, Sean. Thanks for Actual Factual. Yes, have a good evening. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I will see you on Friday. Well, our Honest Plus folks, I'll see you on Friday, and the newsletter is coming tomorrow as well. And today's newsletter is there, so go check it out. All right? Have a peaceful night. Keep your head on a swivel and shut down television if it doesn't make you feel better or makes you more informed. Okay? So always take care of your well-being. Have a good night.